Dynamite Download. Welcome to Dynamite Download, your source for positive coverage of all elite wrestling.
This is what pro wrestling should feel like.
Oh, you guys, positive energy.
I think that created a little moment in itself.
You're saying I have a better record than Kenny Omega and Samoa Joe, and now I'm going to have to wrestle them.
I've never seen someone able to break down like wrestling like he does.
Mariah May,
my real story does connect with a lot of people.
That you need to be careful in the locker room.
I definitely think that women's wrestling has been elevated.
And with the loss of Brody, I feel like we were just kind of a little bit directionless.
I was like deep diving into like cults.
Raw horse.
Raw horse?
Oh my god!
Amazing.
I had to smack him around a few times to fully gain his respect.
You said that in front of the voice of a generation?
Awesome.
This podcast is, quite frankly, the drizzling shit, if I'm being quite honest.
They spread positivity about AEW.
Welcome to Dynamite Download.
Welcome to Dynamite Download. We are the Dukes of no technical difficulties at all and no human error at all either. We are certainly not these guys by any stretch of the imagination. What up, everybody? I am Mind Runner, and with me, of course, is the doctor of the SPD.
What is up? It feels good to be. The boys are back in town, back together again after a couple of substitute guest hosts. And thank you for filling in, Brent and Courtney, on those on and off weeks for SPD and Mind Runner while we're getting through it on the road to Dynasty. But we're here, episode 178, live, back in action. Our Dynasty preview show is going to go live right after Collision is off the air. So definitely join us this weekend for that. And then this weekend, we will have, a special announcement. We might be needing our cowboy boots, so we might have a special announcement on Saturday. So stay tuned for that.
Yep.
But it is great to be back. How you feeling, Mind Runner?
I'm feeling as cool as a coon dog on a tick rhinoceros. Yeah! If that's any clue to what we were talking about. SPD, yeah, is getting a neck.
That is true. Thank you for noticing. SPD did get it cut out some of the locks, and they are going to a special cause, donating the hair. I cut off more than 12 inches of hair. I feel like a little kid or feel like naked without it, but it was for the bigger picture, bigger cause. So, a little lighter on the head for the summer flow.
It looks like, you've got that nice Pert Plus flow to you there,
That's right.
And I have
donated by
Pantene
Pro V.
Yes, Pantene. I have donated some hair too, as one of our sponsors, the Venus Shaver. I have donated some hair as well to a good cause. They never say where the hair has to come from when you're donating hair, So some of those rugs on top of people's heads, they may come from other areas, especially the curlier they are. But yes, we got a lot of that
sponsorship in a while, which is kind of funny. That was one of the go-to sponsors of Collision right before the commercials was the Venus Shave Club. If you all remember that with AEW.
Yes,
early on.
Classic. We need, we are working on this. Is some good, of course, Full Tilt Deb, the ever supportive spouse. Of course, she's loving all of that. Steven says, lost half of my hair. Well, we can help you out with some of that. My mind just went in the gutter. Yes, this mind is, of course, always in the gutter. Well, we got some cool stuff coming up. We've got
Let's get back on track.
We do have some sponsors coming up in the next, so we'll probably have a few of those cool things. You want to hear SPD and Mind Runner read some ads? Maybe we'll get some of you guys to read some of the ads coming up. Like, I'd love to hear Courtney reading an ad like, what is this crap? You're like, you don't need to buy this crap. Yeah, just, go eat some lettuce or something like that. Anyways, we got all kinds of cool stuff to get to. And I know SPD is champing at the bit, because I heard that's how you say it, not chomping at the bit. So for us to talk about the draft update. So without further ado, let's get to our draft update.
We bring the boom. That's what we do. We bring the boom.
Oof. Should I just keep this on my shoulder for the rest of the draft or what? Because I'm on the top and I'm not leaving anytime soon, baby.
Oh, my goodness. Here he is. Ladies and gentlemen, at the top of the mountain. Only 1 point ahead of Steven, though. Steven, you gotta knock him down here. But the champ is at the top. Look at that. 34 points. Still a battle. Quite a battle. And of course, Steven only 1 point behind, 33. And then
FPD is creeping up, man. She is creeping up after that +3.
Because she had Willow and Swerve. And she's been racking up those points, and she actually has gotten ahead of Bobby, of course, and Courtney, Miss Courtney, who has really jumped up since the beginning of this thing. Full Tilt Deb has got her sights on Courtney and Brian, and then me, and then there's like a point between me and Cray, point between me and Brian, and then there's a point between Brian and Courtney and Full Tilt Deb. There's I don't want to say call it the mid card, but there's a huge battle. And I think what's important to all of us, because Dynasty is on Saturday and we'll have a preview show. One of us, it's important that Steven and SBD do not win the bingo.
You're right.
They cannot win the bingo. Court, Full Tilt, Deb, Cray, Brian, Bobby, Brent. One of us has to win the bingo. We can't let these guys run away with it as we head closer to Double or Nothing.
You're right, man. It's been fun, a lot of fun, and I know we got Collision coming up on Saturday, Dynasty. So this time next week, when we're talking on next Thursday's Dynamite Download, there's going to be probably, I would say, at stake between Dynasty and Collision, at least 20 plus points at stake. And that can go, I mean, we got 9 teams, 20 plus divvied up in that, plus the +3. So anything can happen. But last night's show, I felt like it just was such a smooth, complete show overall, top to bottom. So many great promos, so many storylines, and so many like OMG moments, I felt like, including what we saw near the end, which we'll talk about with the Swerve aspect. But so many things. Like, I loved when they announced the mixed tag match and for it to kick off the show. Okay, also face-to-face moments. There are so many great face-to-face moments, including this one, which I absolutely love. The Hangman Swerve face-to-face moment. Obviously, the Lashley and MJF face-to-face moment. Like, so I felt like there's a lot of tension building throughout different things in AEW.
Yeah, I love it. By the way, I love the look of the lady in the middle, in between. She's like, "Oh, you're in trouble now, buddy." But I recognize, it's time for a Super Chat Party. Super Chat Party. Thank you so much. Keep them going. And yes, we saw another one.
Back
all right.
to back.
You know, we
one
haven't
for
seen
each of
these
us
guys in a while. Let's get this one going.
Oh my God, is that a private chat party?
I guess I should keep them like that. I don't have to take the titles off the guys, even though they're no longer
right.
Not only they're no longer champions, they're
the
no
champ. They're always the champ in terms of like the history behind it. But thank you, Brian. Thank you so much for the super stickers and the super chat parties. I'm glad you did the Young Bucks one first, because the kind of going around socials was that sign of "We miss you, Young Bucks," and they hearted that and reposted it. And man, I really did think they would be showing up back at the last pay-per-view, especially in their backyard. But that's a whole nother hot take for another time. But kicking things off, or you want to talk a little bit about some of the ones that have fallen for lately?
We have a couple fallen heroes here that we salute just really quickly. And I hate that this is becoming something that could almost become a segment on our show, is that the injury update, the versus the kayfabe, because I think Willow's kayfabe hurt. We're gonna get to that in a second, but it was announced first thing on the show by everybody that Switchblade is injured. Somebody said it was torn pec, but that's actually Orange Cassidy is also now injured. He has a torn pec, and it does sound like both of them are going to need some time off, some surgery. So we won't be seeing them for a while, which is so devastating because I was hoping that, the Gun Club would come back, the Bang Bang Gang would come back. For Orange Cassidy, I know SBD feels a certain kind of way about the dude and all that, but it does. So, that's why I married her. Sounds like Timeless Tony Storm is ripping off the wrong tits. Yes, it does sound like that. But Orange Cassidy is I think he needs some time away to help his character, so that when he comes back and you hear his music again, it's going to be like we miss him. It is time for some of our old forgotten favorites to come back. But we would, of course, I think I speak for all of us. We wish them all the best in recovery, and we hope they come soon. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure we got those guys out there before we talk about this.
I love the way this dynamic went, and you can throw stones in a glass house all you want, but I think this match was super entertaining, and a lot of the aspect I loved about it was, well, it being a tornado tag match for one, but the way Moxley almost the whole match was toying with like potentially getting involved with Willow, potentially kind of dangling that carrot,
simmering,
and then just like coaching Marina when he had the opportunity, and he wasn't going to do it, and then come behold, at the end of the match, he puts her out with the DDT. It proved us all, but I love the way he was like kind of just hinting at it the whole time. Honestly, like I loved my top performer of the night was a member of this match, which we'll talk about later tonight. But Willow really showed up. Swerve really showed up. And, I can't fault Marina for having a few of her quote unquote, maybe not as smooth spots. I mean, Willow's double her size. As much of a beast as Marina is and Strong is, or the grapples and holds and everything, and improvements that we've seen in the wrestling ring, I don't fault her at all for not being able to lift her up or do some of those moves, because she's not really used to going against that type of wrestler. But at the same time, it would have been nice, like you said, Mindrunner, to see a few of matches of Marina leading up to this one.
Yeah.
But I think the dynamic between all four played very, very well. I did enjoy this a lot. And I know we've been wanting kind of more mixed tag matches. This has been the first one in a long time, because there's, power couples in AEW, and there's a lot of, we kind of fantasy booked of like who could be, what kind of mixed tag match we'd want to see. And so I really enjoyed this one overall. I thought this was a great way to kick off the show, and I loved what played out throughout the show because of it.
Absolutely. And, to what you mentioned earlier, I've been a big fan of Marina Shafir. She's at home with the former Blackpool Combat Club, the Death Riders. And I've always said that that's where she needs to be. I do feel like they're still trying to figure her out, but they're so close with her now. I truly feel like her debut at AEW was mishandled, and it wasn't necessarily anybody's fault. It just, I think they were thinking one thing and it just wasn't, fitting. I mean, you look at Toni Storm when she was at NXT and WWE. There was no timeless Toni Storm there. She was Toni Storm. She was great, but she also just didn't find her mojo till she became timeless. And then look at her now. I felt like this was fantastic. I agree that was a nasty table bump. It looked like Willow hit her head first. I think if you watch slow it down, though, you can see her shoulders hit just before. What I've said before, like you brought up, I think it's a nitpick, but I think they're selling Marina short by not letting her have some dominant singles matches. She needs to really start going through some AEW baby faces. And in fact, if you're, Anna Jay is missing, or if somebody's time off, or they're going to be away for a while, have her kayfabe injure somebody, like, break somebody's arm or something. If someone's going to take some time off, we need to see how more vicious and dangerous Marina Shafir is now under the guidance of the Mad King I said Mad King. I'm hinting at crazy guy Matt Moxley. I felt like felt like this match though was fantastic. Were there a few dodgy spots? Yeah, but I think it was very well planned. And like you said, there's that simmering of, is Moxley gonna do something to Willow? And of course, we had that moment where there was that threat. You give Willow the Death Rider, I'm taking Marina down. And it was like I dare you, I double dog dare you, and Mox backed off. I thought that was great. I also thought the finish was fantastic. I thought Willow Marina sacrificing herself and getting the stomp in the head. I thought that was great. But here's the thing. I'm going to say this now, but I'm going to come back to. This is a hint for later. Something I want to bring up later. For all of the groans and eye rolls that I myself have done, I am part of this. Not liking this Death Riders storyline, not sure where it's going, not sure what's happening, not sure, it's whatever. I feel like this match is like when you finally get that alignment. I think this is even if the Death Riders storyline ends at, I don't think it's going to end tomorrow night or Saturday night. I think we're going to at least take it to Double or Nothing, if not to All In. But I think this is what we've needed, is we now have the most dangerous man or the most dangerous men, we'll get to that, in AEW are going to be the ones that can stop the Death Riders. But this was fantastic. Willow is the perfect babyface female to be in a mixed tag like this, because crap, I want to see Willow versus Brody King. I was excited about that, but I think this is fantastic. I think this was a greatly played, and the way that when he finally did give Willow the Death Rider after they were celebrating, there's now 4 things you can do to as a heel wrestler to really get me, if not everybody, to boo. Hurt Rio, hurt Prince Nana. Now I'm going to add hurt Willow, or do anything that Christian Cage does. Those are the ways to get yourself over as a heel. And I thought that was fantastic. So great match. I thought this was, and yes, Willow was one of my possible. In fact, it was a fight between her and a couple other people for my top performers. Willow really took it to the next level. But this is also testament to Swerve and Moxley. And yeah, I just hope they really give Marina the chance to get her feet on the ground, get herself in the right direction.
Hot off the press, we have an announcement from TK himself, which is a match that was hinted, but that now the acceptance has been made, is the Jericho versus Bandito for the title versus mask at Dynasty. And you and I, were a little talking about this off air, of when this possibly could be, this match could take place, kind of like the final blow off, but looks like it's going to be at Dynasty on the main card. No buy-in, none of that shenanigans that he did with his brother Gravity. So that is hot off the press with that one. So I'm excited for this title versus mask. I do like the gimmick on that. I do like that kind of thing. So
yeah,
these are two of my guys going head to head, but it's almost like a Bandito victory on that because of the mask aspect. However, I do think having both guys put up a collateral for it is a really cool idea. Yeah. The rest of the Jericho Appreciation Society, or excuse me, the Learning Tree, jumping the gun there, was a surprise appearance last night. And they've been hinting at the kind of pivoting towards the tag team division, and Jericho has been sending out that challenge for his minions, his branches, his Redwood and the Bad Apple to get work done essentially. And honestly, Big Bill looks like an absolute $1 million. The guy is seriously like a real life action figure in a sense. Big Bill is just looks so great. And I like that they had these little guy squash match right in front of Lashley on that. So
we're definitely going to get to that. Yeah.
And they did prove themselves. I mean, I guess that match isn't official yet. Maybe we'll find out on Collision, but they're getting the wins and trying to get a title shot versus the Hurt Syndicate.
Yeah, if you want to skip to that, we can go right to that.
Talk about that whole segment there.
Well, because the whole segment kind of flows into itself, because we had MJF kind of come out, and he's just first of all, just to finish your thought about Big Beal and Brian Keith. We know the story that it was the injury to Brian Cage is why it's this versus the Murder Machines. I think that's actually a blessing in disguise, because I think we need to parlay that Murder Machines feud, because I want that to be a big feud.
Big payoff, yeah.
Big payoff. But I think this is good. The dismissive way that MVP and Bobby were with Bob was with them, I thought was great. And again, they're trying to prove themselves. And Big Bill, people have criticized Big Bill. I think he's great on the mic. I think he needs the microphone more.
Agreed.
I thought this was great. He's got a good point. I think it's going to be a good match, but we'll talk on our preview show. I don't see this. I just see this as Hurt Syndicate's going to hurt. But I think what's going to come out of this, and Full Tilt Deb actually had this idea. I got to give her credit, because this was fantastic. So this is a combination of Full Tilt Deb's idea and SBD, your incredible hot take that you had, and we combine them together. And here's what this is a spoiler alert, because I think this is what's going to happen. Notice that MJF is being super cocky, calling him Bob, and of course Bobby Lashley's all that. But MVP, if you notice, he's saying, "Hey, cool," and right. We're supposed to think that MVP is still interested in bringing MJF over. But if you watched, every time MJF did something anti-crowd, MVP just shook his head like you're embarrassing yourself. So here's what I think is going to happen. And I'm combining your idea and what Full Tilt Deb said. I think the plan is what's going to happen is because MJF has told them, as long as we're working together, I will guarantee you'll never lose those tag team titles. Mm-hmm. Notice the words he chose. He chose, you'll never lose the titles. He didn't say he wasn't going to cost you matches. I think what's going to happen I know we're probably getting ahead of ourselves for the preview, is MJF is going to interfere, but he's going to get the Hurt Syndicate disqualified. And it's going to be the only DQ on the entire card, but they're going to get disqualified. Big Bill and Brian Keith are going to get the win. But as you know, in a title match, a disqualification doesn't earn you the titles. And so MJF is going to be smiling like a rat, saying, I helped. You kept the titles. Because of my interference, you got disqualified, so you kept the titles. Of course, obviously, the Hurt Syndicate's like, no, we had these guys. You cost us a win. So what's going to happen on the following Dynamite is Hurt Syndicate's going to come out, and they're going to make an announcement about their future, about growing their new member, and about the events. They're going to address what happened. MJF's going to come out, and of course, MVP is going to say, I thought I knew you, but you really went beyond what my expectations. And they're going to say, we've all squashed our issues, and based on the actions of Dynasty, we have made a decision, and we'd like to right now welcome our fourth member to the Hurt Syndicate. And MJF's getting ready to accept and shake hands.
Big shitty grin and ready for a hug.
Yep. And then you hear, this is war.
Oh, and
man. First of all, the crowd's going to pop. Wardlow's going to come out dressed to the nines, and MJF is going to sell this like hotcakes. He's going to look like such like death, like not him. And it's going to be the message received. He's got, to quote the man in the black cat, he's going to run like a scalded dog. That is what needs to happen. Tony Khan, this, please, if we're spoiling this, then don't listen to us, but this needs to be what happens. It's I don't want to say it's a no-brainer, but the moment you mentioned that SBD, that Wardlow needs to be the fourth member, he fits them, he dresses well, he's a dominant, he hurts people. We need this. Let's have this happen. And if it happens and it's going to happen next Dynasty. And if it happens, I don't know.
Bobby Lashley couldn't get rid of the trash himself of an MJF, but no better person with no better relationship of the past when MJF in place to bring War Daddy back into AEW versus just showing up and kind of rinse and repeat. I feel like this would do great for Wardlow's group. I mean, and I think like having the Wardlow join the Hurt Syndicate would instantly put them 100% over the edge in terms of red hot babyface teams. Not that Hurt Syndicate isn't already, but adding Wardlow, because those diehard AEW fans like us know Wardlow's impact and see what kind of a stud and star he is. And for him to fit in there with the Hurt Syndicate, at least for the time being, as a return would be such great stuff, in my opinion.
Yeah. Courtney, I'm not sure Kevin Knight's involved with Hurt Syndicate. I think in fact, it sounds like he's kind of doing a thing with he's actually doing a thing with Ospreay. We'll get to that in just a moment. Almost in this would be incredible. But
let's talk about the brackets.
Yeah, let's get to the they announced the brackets, the men's and women's, and
I love a good tournament, and so I'm really stoked about these brackets. I know we had a little bit of a swerve, no pun intended, with Jay White not being in the brackets, but we can start with the men's there.
Yep.
Speaking of Kevin Knight there, no real surprises on this one. I think it's been as expected. Who there? Wild card. Obviously, it's always fun. Hangman was a wild card at one point. Rumors of Josh Alexander, maybe Darby Allin, whomever it may be. But regardless of it, I still feel like the ultimate payoff is Ospreay versus Mox at All In. Ospreay being the main eventer at All In. I think AEW has absolute superstar in Ospreay, and clearly he's been proving himself at stadium shows and being like such a marquee marquee guy. But regardless of that, how do you feel about the bracket, and who do you think's going to be in the finals of this?
Oh, I still think Ospreay's the favorite. I think Ospreay's definitely the favorite on the left bracket. I think it's going to be it's going to be Banger City. Will Ospreay, Kevin Knight, and we'll get to their match in just a second, but that is going to be such a tremendous match at Dynasty. It was announced that they're going to be on there, but I think the left side of the bracket is Will Ospreay to lose. I think I see him getting there. Takesha's the only other person I see legitimately from overall how they've been treated in AEW. I see Takesha being the only spoiler on that side. Brody, I'd love to see, but I just don't think he's going to get past Takesha. Plus that we get to have Ospreay versus Takesha again. I think that's going to be great. On the right side, okay, I think it'd be interesting to see Hanger versus Ospreay instead of Fletcher versus Ospreay.
That's what I want to see. The money for me is Hangman versus Ospreay.
Yeah.
Even though both guys Hangman is the tweener, but
yeah.
I think Hangman essentially we've spoken a lot about people being gatekeepers in divisions, and I feel like Hangman is definitely one of those. It's like if Ospreay can get through Hangman, I think the title's in his future. Hangman has proven himself to be a top guy, former champ, et cetera, and so I am more intrigued about a Hangman Ospreay than a Fletcher rematch. I don't want them to revisit that personally. I do want to see
Hangman kick Kyle Fletcher's ass, though. So that's semifinal.
Right. Hangman, Fletcher, Ospreay, Takeshita. Sign me up for that Final Four.
However, the wild card is throwing me off. Now, granted, was it the plan originally Jay White versus Will Ospreay in the finals?
Right.
You have to redo some things. Who's the wild card? Is it a returning Darby Allin? Is it Josh Alexander? Is it, the world is cold, you better bundle up Eddie Kingston? Who's going to be coming back? Is it somebody else that we haven't even heard of signing? So whenever you put a wild card, the chances of the person going against the wild card aren't very good. So it could end up being Kyle Fletcher versus whoever the wild card is. So I think it's going to be let's tune into it and find out.
Now the women's division, I feel like is much more stronger competition and really kind of a toss up. Like I don't know, like any one of these matches, you know, they're doing a couple repeat match. Like Jamie and Billy already just had a match, so like I would be shocked if Jamie doesn't beat her again. You could see an upset there, but who do you think the finals are going to be?
This is going to be like we were talking about offline earlier and stuff, that this, and we mentioned this on Mission Pro Spotlight, that this is such a stacked, this is the best brackets. I mean, the last couple Owens, there were like a couple superstars, and then there were some that were,
right.
I mean, not bad, but you pretty much knew who was going to be in the finals by just looking at it. Here, there's a number of combinations here. The fact they're putting Thunder versus Statlander is phenomenal. Mercedes versus Julia Hart. A lot of people are excited to possibly have Julia try to get her TBS title back. Of course, you know, then there's, of course, you've got Athena, and Athena's going to end up having to, she's going to have to feel the wrath against Harley Cameron. And of course, on Collision, we're going to talk about it a little bit. There's going to be that, the tag team match, but Billy Starks with Jamie Hayter. Oh yes. By the way, I definitely want to talk about that here, because if you saw my Collision report, yes, it's happening. It's happening. At least one of the Renegades is going to join. She took a bullet for Mercedes, so she's definitely. And I got some predictions here. Here's how I think this is going to play out. Because the end of Collision, if you caught the end of Collision after Jamie Hayter got the W over Billy Starks, and we're going to repeat that again. Jamie Hayter is going to make it to the finals, and and I don't care. I mean, Thunder Rosa, you know, she's one of our favorites all time. Statlander, same thing. I'd love to see Jamie versus either one of them. Yeah, right. I'd take both of them, but Jamie Hayter is going to make it to the finals. On the right, Mercedes is either going to lose to Julia Hart or she's going to lose to Athena, but it's going to be due to interference.
Wow.
And she's going to blame Athena for costing her a chance at another belt. Therefore, Mercedes, the belt collector, is going to come after Athena's Ring of Honor title. Now, here's the catch. Athena, the fallen goddess, is no dummy, so she's going to counteroffer, and what we're going to get at either at Double or Nothing, if they get eliminated, or we're going to get it at Y'all In, is going to be Athena versus, this is what they're building to, Athena versus Mercedes Moné, title for title.
Wow.
Ring of Honor and TBS title. And again, Athena being a Texas girl, that is a match to put, that's one of the two awesome women's title defenses that they should have at Y'all In. I think Jamie Hayter is going to be the one to win, and I think it's going to be Jamie Hayter, or it could be Thunder Rosa, but I think Jamie Hayter is the one that's going to walk away with this and be in the finals for Double or Nothing, and that's what I'm thinking.
All right. I honestly don't know. I mean, obviously you go with like your heart or your gut or whatever it may be, but I mean, in theory, I would like to see Mercedes lose her TBS title before All In, before she goes up against the women's world title, if she were to advance on this. But I feel like she's doing such great stuff with the TBS title, it's not really necessary for her to throw her name in the hat of the women's world title. But the women's world title holder, Tony, went toe-to-toe with Penelope Ford herself, super bad last night in the women's match of the night. And I love the back and forth of this. I mean, you've been praising Penelope for weeks and months and months and months, and you know, being a true ring general. But the big picture on this, the Tony Bane feud has quickly escalated so far, exceeding my expectations, and how excited I am for this. But yeah, they're biting the lip or the tongue or whatever it is in that top left picture there. I love the back and forth of this. I love the dynamic that these two had, and it was a great hard fought match between both of them. But man, I'm really curious how this is going to go, because on one hand you have Tony, who just got her title back, doing just some of the best work that she's ever done. Then on the other hand, you have this new wrestler who's just been presented perfectly from start till now, and in Megan Bayne and the Megasis. And as I've said before, I don't think a Bayne loss will hurt her much. She can just seriously get right back up, and either get in another title picture or just continue her dominance. But I feel like Tony is so good with the title. I feel like it's one of those, like, not necessarily she may not need it, but it's so much more fun that she has it. And I feel like her character is elevated having it, because she gets more of a spotlight. Like, I don't know, given the limited time the women's divisions get, I feel like they, if you didn't have a title, you may not be featured as much. Like, Tony is featured every single week, pretty much, because she has the title. Now, if she didn't have the title, I don't feel like she would be featured every single week, if that makes sense. But I can't wait for this title match. And yes, maybe they bring this out to Double or Nothing, and then that's when it's Bayne's turn. And it also really, you got to pay attention to the tournament, because if you have like a really red hot babyface winning that tournament, then you got to wonder, like, who's going to be the champ going into All In, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing too. It's like, I personally feel like Tony Storm having the title, like, I felt differently before, but I think Tony Storm only helps the women's division by having the title, because she's such a compelling character and she's such a great person, either having the title or still being in the hunt for it. By the way, I just got to say, you've got to have a pretty long tongue to have it be able to be bitten like that. And once again, Full Tilt Deb agrees with me. Kip Sabian, you're a very lucky man. That's all I got to say. All right. But as far as, at the end, the confrontation between Ethel Merman and the Greek prostitute, I thought this was a great face-off at the end here, in the at least the way they looked. But and that was just a joke because of the outfit, because I have all kinds of respect for Megan Bayne. She's a dominant wrestler. She's fantastic. And I think my wife makes a very good point, is Bayne is a threat. She's been able to work herself up to a point where, maybe they might make the swerve and put the belt on her. But I think right. We're going to get into our predictions down the line, but this has been, they've really turned this into a compelling feud. And I think a lot of it has to do with Tony Storm and the way that Tony has really milked this. So of course, that promo when she got kicked in the face by Penelope, I thought that was great. There is a lot to be said. So, but you're right. Bayne can take an L, can take her first loss and still not lose anything. But I think the women's division as a whole loses a lot if Tony Storm doesn't retain. Also,
I just saw this too. It looks fantastic. Such a graphic.
The poster for Dynasty.
Incredible.
Tremendous. Now, the only other thing I'm going to say, I hope that's not Tony Storm in the River Styx, if we're keeping with Greek mythology here. So,
yeah. I hope not too.
Yep. Where do you want to go next?
Let's talk about, let's see here. We talked about the brackets. Let's talk a little bit about FTR. And then that can kind of lead into the main event, just kind of rated FTR. Okay. I'm really curious I feel like I'm getting mixed messages from Dax. And yes, he's apologizing. He's paying his fine to the ref. He's doing all that. But I still feel like there's some kind of underlying story or underlying thing going on with that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Dax lost to Yuta. Cash is against Pac. Cope beat Claudio last night. And so I'm really still torn. I don't know who's going to win this trios match, which all along I wanted them to get the trios titles. Those three guys rated FTR. But I don't know. They said they're going to fight at the pay-per-view, and then they'll talk it out, Cash and Dax, and figure it out. But I've said this before. It's like, there's no better true tag team AEW or in the industry right now than FTR. And if you were to break them up, it would be detrimental to the tag division, in my opinion. In a tag division that doesn't really have many true tag teams. So FTR breakup would be, I think, the wrong decision. Even though Dax is the axe and can really have some awesome singles matches, but these guys shine most when they're together. And so having them together, even though they're facing a little rocky path right now, is absolutely necessary. I don't ever want to see FTR break up. They're the top guys for a reason. And the Cope element to it, I feel like these guys need to be one of the top baby faces right now. Bring some lifeblood into the babyface side with those champs and put those trios titles, and they can go week in and week out and have banger match after banger match, those three guys against the trios divisions that's slowly starting to get deeper and deeper. So I'm not sure. I know, Court, you've been talking about that. Is it time for Cope to turn on FTR? What do we think? Like, what do you make it? Do you think Dax is genuine, or do you think he's kind of playing up in this little fake apology character work?
I think Courtney's got their number. I think that when you factor in that Cope only has a few more matches under his belt, he's maximizing what he can right now. Maybe he lasts another year, but this is his unofficial final run. He doesn't have much. He's lucky to be having this, but he's doing the best he can. And I think that what the plan is to legitimately bring Edge and Christian together. But what this is doing is setting the stage for that, so that it's not a heel turn, but that it's a turn that makes sense. That it's going to make sense to that Cope, the one person that he can count on, ends up being this guy that's been a heel this whole, and they're setting it up, because even now Nick Wayne is branching out on himself and kind of kicked Christian to the curb. So Christian now is in a position where his confidence is lost. He's no longer the father figure.
Right.
Nick Wayne is now he's the big man in charge now, and with Kip Sabian and Mama Wayne. So Christian's lost. Cope will be lost with that when things go south with FTR. And I love Courtney's idea. I think what needs to happen is, I think they're going to lose. They're not going to win the trios titles. I think Dax is going to, and Cope are going to blame each other, and Cash is good. I think at Double or Nothing, having Cope versus Dax with Cash as the referee makes so much sense. I think that, because here's what happens. Dax wins. Cope blames Cash for being biased, and he sees it as him choosing Dax over Cope, when Cash is just trying to call it down the middle. That's what causes the breakup, causes the rift. Cope goes a little bit crazy, and then he finds a broken Christian, and they made Phil Tilt Deb says they kiss and make out, but no. What they get on the horses and ride one last time as the Edge and Christian connection, and I think Cope has wanted to do that, and I think a lot of this has probably been something they've talked about for a long time, and this is kind of how they've planned to get to that point. Because you've got to if Cope is going to team with Christian and against FTR, which is probably his plan, you've got to make
that would be sweet.
You got to make it believable so that Cope isn't a heel. I mean, they're still singing his song. His theme song's the new Judas. They're singing his theme song, so he's not going to be a heel. So, and I think that they're actually in the process of rehabilitating Christian, and I think this is going to be such a great. I think we're in for such a great overall storyline that. And honestly, I mean, we don't even need to waste much time on this match, just because it was what it was. Yeah, it was the main event, but compared to everything else that happened tonight, to me, it was like the ugliest supermodel. It's like it was there. It was great. It was decent. If there wasn't all this other awesome stuff going on, it would have been very compelling. But yeah, it was what it was, and you had, of course. Some people think that Copeland giving Claudio the yam bag right there, Fred, was a heel move. No, I just think that's Cope, doing what he's got to do. I mean, compared to everything the Death Riders have done,
right?
I think that's fantastic. I think it's all good. And plus, just like before, I think this was they knew that they had the Swerve stuff coming up after this, so this was a match that didn't have to bring the house down because the Swerve stuff was coming right up. So yeah, I think I don't. You know what? I think okay.
True tag teams. That's why I said FTR is a true tag team.
I respectfully disagree though, Steven. Because now, granted, I don't know what they're doing sitting on Top Flight, but they're really starting to build up the crew, And I thought it was interesting that the crew are looking for a third person because this AR Fox is messing things up for them, being bullies and stuff. I thought that was kind of interesting, but I think that there are other we have the Outrunners. We had the Murder Machines. We've got the Hurt Syndicate. We've got, I think they're building tag teams again. And I think, I liked, I want to talk about it. Are you doing this for me?
All right. Oh yeah.
I want to talk about this really quick because, granted, I don't think Will Ospreay and Kevin Knight are going to be a tag team. Of course, they're going to face each other. I think, Ospreay's singles bound completely, but I liked Blake Christian and Lee Johnson as a tag team. Blake Christian's calling himself the Vanilla Baby. He should call himself Rickety Cricket from Sunshine in Philadelphia. But I think their tag team should be called Chocolate Vanilla Swirl if they're going to keep the ice cream thing. And I think, once again, Blake Christian was my top performer from Collision. Blake Christian and Shoddy Lee, Mr. Julia Hart. I mean, they put on a phenomenal match, but again, they were showcasing what Kevin Knight can do. I think that's another tag team that needs more time. There's tag teams in Ring of Honor that if they just brought over and gave them some AEW time, they could stack that tag team division again. Maybe we're waiting for the Young Bucks, but yeah, this is going to be, if you had a chance to watch this tag team, what Ospreay versus Kevin Knight is going to be at Dynasty.
I liked Ospreay. He said, getting dropped in the deep end with sharks about Kevin Knight. I mean, going toe to toe with Jay White, essentially on his AEW TV debut, teaming up with Ospreay. Then his next singles match is Ospreay versus him, and he gets thrown into one of the biggest tournaments in AEW with the Ultimate Prize main eventing All In. And so I feel like Kevin Knight quickly has maximized every single minute he's had in the ring and impressed us all. Obviously, he is all elite now, but he has done very, very impressive stuff. I was happy he was even got the pin last night on the show. And man, I'm very impressed with what I've seen so far. Both everything, his presentation, his look, his moveset. He's very clean in the ring, very innovative. I'm excited in the sky is the limit with this guy. I mean, he can almost jump to this guy with that freaking missile drop kick off the shoulders there in that picture in the bottom left. But I think he has limitless potential, and to be able to get his first few tests with both Jay White and Ospreay is really a testament and trust in what they see in him and what he can deliver. So I think he's been capitalizing on every opportunity he's gotten so far. And I'm excited to see what's in store for him because he's a stud.
I'm going to nickname Kevin Knight as Mr. F, Mr. Fantastic. Because that dude, here's the thing. Look at the height he got on that drop kick where he hit Lee Johnson. I think he actually is giving Okada a run for his money.
Yeah,
because up until now, I mean, Okada always had that famous high drop kick,
and Colton Gunn.
And Colton's
got a huge one.
Gunn. I'd love to see a drop kick. I'd love to see Kevin Knight and Will Ospreay versus the Guns. That would be tremendous. All kinds of cool stuff. But I think this was fantastic. Kevin Knight was one of my possible top performers of the night. He proved it's rare that a new hire, if you are somebody that nobody has really heard of, gets a debut and can show that he can hold their own with,
Right.
like you said, Jay White and all these guys, and get a spot on a pay-per-view in such a short amount of time. It shows how much they believe in him. He was a candidate for my top performer of the night because of how he was able to show that their faith in him was well placed. And you can see he's getting the Osprey bruv rub. And I think they're going to put on a barn burner. They're going to put on a slot. It's going to be one of those blinking, you missed 5 moves type of
pure
matches.
wrestling. Yeah, pure wrestling is going to be probably one of the best matches.
Yep.
And another hot off the press announcement for Dynasty is one of the Owen Cup tournament matches was announced for Dynasty here. We got Briscoe versus Fletcher, which is going to be on the pay-per-view card on this weekend.
Kyle Fletcher, the word of the day is smack your mama. I'm going to beat you down. I'm going to get that kung fu karate, that chicken kung fu. Yeah. Oh, it's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic.
Now, before I don't want to run out of time, but we got to talk, bring Swerve back to Swerve, if you know what I mean, because this is so much happened in such a little time regarding Swerve, Hangman, Swerve, Mox, and everything in between.
Real quick, we did have some meat. We just got to tell you, we had a meat match. It was men slapping me.
I want to talk about that too if we got time after this. But this is I did not expect the face-to-face. Oh, as I talk at the top of the show, the face-to-faces that we got, including the Callus Mark and the Callus MJF, and then this one was the most important face-to-face. I feel like was Hangman versus Swerve, and you've been saying it all along how this feud. They have such a great feud against each other, and down the line, it feels like they're going to have to team up together. And with that comment of "you burned my house down," and then him admitting Swerve, I think it kind of
deserved it. And he goes, "I know."
Yeah, powerful line, which I think AEW needs to re-air to give us kind of, it's not closure to the feud, but it's kind of a step like that, and a little bit of step in that direction. Not like closure where they're never going to be each other, but kind of like understanding of each other, where they can maybe get on the same page. Correct me if I'm wrong, but was there cowboy shit chants going on during the Swerve beatdown?
I couldn't tell because I was bouncing on the edge of my seat, waiting to hear it. And I hope, and get rid of the new theme. We need the old school hanger theme to hit.
Yes.
And that pumps in freaking the place. Oh, okay. I do a little hyperbole sometimes. I know. Sometimes I do. I even tweeted this earlier. I think that this could become we may be witnessing the best storyline in AEW history. And I say that even counting the Hanger Kenny, which, that was just, people use the word cinema a little too much, I think, but this is cinema. The way, because this is what all of that blood feud was building up to. It's like when the guy stands up to the bully and punches him out, and then they become best friends. They actually end up being friends. They like, it's the movie cliche. It's like, look, it's like, now this is what I wanted the Thunder Britt Baker feud to turn out to be.
Right.
It's because it's like Hanger sees himself in Swerve, and I think Swerve sees himself in Hanger. I think they see themselves in each other. And again, the death rate. This is what I've been saying. These you're looking at the men, the two most dangerous men in AEW, and until now, eyes have been elsewhere. But now Moxley really effed up, because now the two most dangerous men in AEW are involved with the Death Riders. You saw them do a Ricola bomb into real glass, and then Swerve just sits up like the Undertaker.
Yeah,
and
and they announced
like,
that. He's like
oh,
rose
chills.
dead.
Oh, that was chill. This whole last segment, I choked up. I was heck yes, and then I was like, oh, that stared at when Mox looked back thinking he was dead, and he sees Swerve with the shards of glass sticking out of his back, and he's just staring him down.
Cinema.
It's like, it's going to be fantastic. At this point, who walks away the champion? It should be Swerve, but at this point, whoever walks away the champion, it's irrelevant. Now, before we get off, I have to ask you, I want to ask the Dynamite Download Nation a very important question, because we've been rolling our eyes about the Death Riders. It's been frustrating, but now it's starting to. I feel like it's really getting its groove, because
You've been rolling your eyes, not me.
It's needed them. It's needed the Hanger Swerve connection and all of this that's coming. And I think this is going to take us all the way to all y'all in. I think that's where it's going to happen. But I think it's all been worth it. And I haven't been hating on the Death Riders as much as some people. I've actually because I like all of them. I'm a fan of all of them.
Right.
But I think this is what we've needed. And I said this is what should have happened when Saraya invaded, and should have been like Thunder and Britt having to come together to stop Saraya and them. But no, scratch that. They ruined that. This is what's going to happen. Imagine this. Whatever happens Saturday night's going to happen, but the storyline's not over. If Mox loses, he's going to want revenge. If Mox wins, the chase continues. Swerve needs to get the title back in 2025 between now and All In. He needs to be going into All In with the belt. Whatever happens, Double or Nothing, you decide. My question to all of you, will it be, two questions. One, will it be worth it? All of this Death Riders things, whether you liked it or not, will it be worth the storyline if the end result ends?
It's SPD at top.
Yeah, SPD. If it ends, if we get blood and guts, Death Riders versus Team AEW. Now, second question, if you were going to book Death Riders versus Team AEW, what would be the teams of 5? These are my picks. Who would you replace out of this? Death Riders, Moxley, Pac, Claudio, Wheeler, and then to add to storyline, Jack Perry becomes their 5th member. You've got a ton of story there with him. He fits right in, blah, blah, blah. Swerve and Hanger put their differences aside to stop the Death Riders. Darby, his music hits. People pop. He comes back. Darby's going to be back. Freaking Will Hobbs, unstoppable force. And then a mystery 5th partner that they don't know who it's going to be until the moment of the thing. And then you hear Moxley's in the ring, and you hear the world is cold. You better bundle up. When that music hits and Eddie Kingston is on Team AEW, Moxley's going to shit a brick. He's going to beat the shit out of Claudio, and he's going to go right for Mox, and it's going to be Team AEW all day long. And Eddie, that's a great way to bring Eddie Kingston back. Don't have him do any promos until this moment. Have him just show up as the mystery 5th member and just have him just kick ass, and then just have this incredible match. This needs to take place between, I think sometime between obviously Dynasty, but it needs to take place before All In, and then you build up the final, the final blow will be maybe Swerve versus Moxley or something. But
see,
let me know.
There's a couple things like this. I love the idea of a blood and guts with the Death Riders, and we've been wanting Jack Perry to be an added member to them. So I feel like this should and could happen easily. A few things as you're talking about it that was coming to mind. It's like if Moxley retains at Dynasty, which I do think he will, unfortunately, I feel like that's going to be one of his last major title defenses, because you got to really have a champion going into the build of All In. And so that puts you in, mid-April. So you have a few months to build to All In. Like, I don't want to see whoever wins the Owen Hart Cup tournament is going to be the next champ, in my opinion, because it's the ultimate prize and all. And I think that's just like, I like that booking. You win the tournament, you all main event the show, you get the title. So I want Moxley to continue to be public enemy number one, and have Osprey essentially taking the torch from Mr. Day One Moxley guy, of kind of being the MVP of AEW. Now moving to a blood and guts possibility. What I would like to see is if Moxley winning in Dynasty, but not spoiling too much, Swerve, laying there, getting attacked, Hangman's music hits then, and to come to rescue him. And then that plants the seeds of Hangman coming to the aid of Swerve to defeat Moxley and the Death Riders, et cetera, et cetera. Now, who I would substitute on Team AEW would be the Ops, because Rated FTR is not winning the trios titles, then the Ops are, and then that way this could plant the seeds for the Ops going against the Death Riders.
Samoa Joe in a blood and guts match.
Oh my gosh! Put on that mask from
the
the show he's on. So if you had Hangman, Swerve, and the Ops versus the Death Riders, because I think that would be very compelling a matchup. Because then you could ultimately, if Rated FTR is not getting the trios titles, the Ops will pluck the titles from them just before All In, and then at All In will be essentially the demise of the Death Riders, because they'll lose all their titles from there on, losing their last title held hostage, and then confetti everywhere, us celebrating with Ospreay being the champ. So that's who I would substitute. I feel like if Swerve does not win, which we all would love for him to win, you have to have some kind of shenanigan, some kind of surprise, some kind of thing. They've planted that seed last night. A huge seed. And if you hear that, like you said, the OG Hangman music pop to hit to kind of come to the aid of Swerve, which we're all like, no way he would do this, but then he does it, and then we're all cheer because together they would be stronger against the Death Riders, because Death Riders really don't have, other than Swerve, like, who else are their enemies right now? I mean, key enemies, not too many people. So two top guys, and then you could have before this match, Death Riders cost Hangman maybe the final match versus Ospreay in a sense, or something like that, and would make it even worse for him to want more out for blood.
I just thought of something too. What if the wild card ends up being a new recruit for the Death Riders? What if Josh Alexander joins the Death Riders?
Yeah, I mean,
there's a number of things you can do. So here's my thing, Tony Khan, please. Just make at least, I'd love for all of these, but make at least one of these things happen. Wardlow join the Hurt Syndicate and make MJF run like a scalded dog. That's one, because that's gonna be phenomenal. That would be perfect for Wardlow, perfect for everybody. We need to have a blood and guts Death Riders team AEW, something like this. Up until SBD threw a complete monkey wrench in this whole thing and said, Ops, this was my team. Now I'm like, damn, that actually makes really good sense. I just want to hear them chant. Because have we had Moxley versus Samoa Joe?
I don't know, but the Ops made that promo. They're going to be at Dynasty. They're going to be watching everything and everyone. So it could be one of those things where they make an appearance during or after the trios titles match, or in the main event even too. So
what if it's Dynamite, Mox and the Death Rider? What if Mox wins? And of course, I think we all think that the trios are going to stay put. What if there are all the Death Riders in the ring talking smack, and then you hear da na na na? I will pop like a schoolgirl. That would be fantastic. And then I could just see it blood and guts.
3 former champs, Joe, Swerve, and Hangman versus Death Riders.
Joe is gonna kill you. Joe is gonna kill you. I think that's gonna be fantastic. I'm excited. Oh, jeez.
These are great stuff.
We'll
continue some fantasy booking as we're getting the card for Dynasty on our Dynasty preview show, which is going to be live immediately following Collision this Saturday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So after Collision, pop on YouTube, hop on X and join us for our Dynasty predictions and preview show. We need everyone to bring us their predictions. So you're possible +3 for those of you that are involved in our fantasy draft season 5. You can submit your predictions to us live like we're going to do, like we always do, or you can send it to us on any of our social channels. But as we wrap up, these were our top performers of the night. SPD, Willow Nightingale, total backbone of that match, kept that match together through and through. Even though she went through a table, she did get the pin and finish, but she didn't stand tall after that DDT. But she definitely was the backbone of that match, in my opinion. And for you, I mean, you said it all. Kevin Knight, absolute stud. He's been proving himself week in and week out, the little that we've seen so far, maximizing his minutes and really being a standout performer in AEW in the short amount of time we've seen him on TV.
Awesome stuff, man. And, honorable mention, we just got to make sure that you guys see that we had some big beefy men slapping man meat. We had the dog Brody King versus Lance Archer. Of course, I think that kind of hints what's going to happen between Brody King and Takeshita. But I thought this was fantastic. Just big meaty men slapping man meat. I love to see that Lance Archer still getting some TV time. And we do have to talk about Collision is going to have Harley Cameron and Mercedes Moné teaming up. And I love that the puppet Mercedes Moné is more over than Mercedes herself. Right. I think Robin Renegade's going to get involved somehow, but this is just going to be phenomenal. I'm excited for it.
Collision is stacked, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah. And I just got to say, I don't think we'll ever have the feeling like it was in 2019 AEW, because that was much more of a grassroots kind of, hey, it's happening kind of thing. But this is the best streak of shows that AEW has had in a long time. Not saying they haven't had banger Dynamites, but it's been, I won't even say it's been rocky, but this has been the most excited I've been for AEW programming in a long time. I do like that they're giving their women's division a lot more focus. I do like that they're really getting some storylines consistent and going. And I always would say that a bad go-home show usually means a good pay-per-view, but this was a tremendous go-home show, and I hope it means it's going to be a tremendous pay-per-view. I think it's going to be great. I think we're going to have some surprises, and strap me in. Let's
buckle up. We're in for a ride.
Buckle up, and we'll talk to you guys on Saturday right after Collision for our Dynasty preview and perhaps some more surprise announcements. Ooh. We'll have to see. All right, everybody. Till then.
Have a good night. Thank you all for joining, and we appreciate you all active in the chat. Love having you guys. And bid you adieu.
Goodbye. Mwah. And good night.